Guys, welcome back to Gardening with Creations by DX & Co. I know it's been a little bit since we put out a video, but I wanted to review some of the ways that I water my houseplants. And what I mean by that is some of the plants that I brought in for the winter and some of the plants that are already normal houseplants, and just tell you how often I'm doing it, why I'm doing it that way, and so maybe you guys can pick up some tips and tricks along the way. Stay tuned. Starters, most of you guys know I actually have aquariums, and so I siphon the water out of my aquariums into a watering can. That watering can in particular, I'll link in the video below on how to make a DIY watering can, or take any normal watering can. And I'm just using this water because it's full of phosphates and nitrates. Used tank water is great for any type of plant, your garden or your house plants. So I have some fantastic snake plants that are hidden in the corner right now, but they're still getting sunlight, as you can see. So snake plants are a great source of oxygen exchange in your house, actually rated one of the best in a lot of studies. So we have snake plants all around the house. Snake plants are a pretty hardy plant, very difficult to kill, but you can still kill it by overwatering, number one, or you can kill it by underwatering, obviously. So one of the things that I do is always, with most plants, to check the soil. This particular soil is still wet, and so I can get away with not watering this one probably for another week. It has been a week already on this one. I will probably still give it a splash of water, but I do mean just a splash of water, just enough for the roots to soak up some fresh nutrients. But ultimately this is very wet, so you're sticking your finger down in there about 1/4 of an inch just to see if the top of the soil is wet, and how far the water goes down. So this one really doesn't need to be watered. Another one here, another snake plant. We did a video on transplanting all of these into this particular pot. If you haven't seen that, go check that video out. I can link it in the description below as well. And one of my favorite plants here is the Pothos. Now, I originally intended to get this Pothos plant here for my fish tank. And the reason for it is because it loves to suck out nutrients out of the water, and it's healthy for the fish overall, and it obviously, the Pothos grows in the fish tank, but it really isn't getting enough sunlight there, so I put it up here so it gets that great sunlight. It's growing nice and well. So as you can see, the Tupperware on there, I keep on there so that way I can keep about 1/4 inch of water, so it'll self-wick up the actual container and continue to feed this particular plant. Now you can see occasionally you get a little bit of yellowing on 1 or 2 leaves, but for the most part it remains a pretty vibrant species of Pothos. So this particular one, you can see it's got some new growth happening right there. It's doing fantastic. This whitening on the leaves is because it's getting more sunlight than the other ones. The darker green is not getting as much sunlight, which, I mean, you can see the blinds are half drawn. It is up there because Pothos is actually dangerous for cats, and I have 3 of them, so it is possible that they could chew on that and be a little toxic. Probably not enough to kill them, but make them sick. So I keep it up high, but it's still thriving and doing very well. Let me take you over and show you what I really enjoy. So over here we have some succulents. These particular succulents I have not repotted. They've stayed in their original pot that they came from the store with, but we put them inside of this. So they like a well-draining soil and a well-drained area. So you never want to let these ones soak. So I water these, test it. You can see, just pull that out there. This is very dry, very dry. So this needs to get watered today. I will run it under the faucet with a quick spurt, maybe 3 seconds, let it drain completely out, run it under the faucet again with a quick spurt, maybe 2 to 3 times of about 2 to 3 seconds each, just enough to get the soil moist. And I do that about once a week with succulents. And you can see this one has just got some fantastic growth on it. This one in particular, it's kind of stale, but it's not dead. That's the important part. Now this one here, you'll notice I've got these sitting high up to where the window can give them light. This is actually a westward window. What you want is either a southwest or a south window if you can. East is great in the summertime, but not so great in the winter time like we have here. And I do keep this in the east. It does do pretty well. Now this one in particular is a lemon tree that I had out in the greenhouse. We started this one from seed, as most of you guys remember. You can see this soil is very dry and is breaking apart because it's so dry. So this one definitely needs to be watered. What I do is usually water this with the watering can, and I give it a good, 2 to 3 times through thoroughly, about once a week to once every week and a half. And you can see this is put on tons of new growth. It is thriving. I will tell you, I was watering this every couple of days when I first brought it in, and I was starting to lose leaves. They were turning brown. Now that could have been from the dryness in the house and the temperature change, but out in the greenhouse and in the summer, I was watering this plant daily. So I went from watering this plant daily to now watering every week to week and a half with my water changes on my fish tank. So it does take a bit of an adjustment period. Your plants can go through a bit of shock, just like anything else. But you need to understand the type of plant. This being a citrus plant, lemon tree, it is okay to have that little bit of drier soil, but you don't want it to be constantly dry, or it will start to lose nutrients and die off. So I will be watering that one today. I always take these over to the sink, water them in the sink, let them fully drain out before I bring them back, and obviously set them on top of a light. Now let me show you one of the other ones here. Say hi to Tiny. So here is a thriving mint plant. Mint loves water. Now this particular soil is loose and dry at the moment right now, so it does need to be watered. I water this one about twice a week as I notice the soil start to dry out, just doing that finger test. And here's a result of what happens to mint when it doesn't get enough water. So I just haven't pulled these out yet. I was going to get a new clipping from just outside the window and put them in there, but we haven't been using as much mint. My plan was to save these for next spring and replant them, and I'll probably still do that, but in particular these ones are just dried out and dead, so you want to keep a close eye on your mint plants if you're going to be doing mint. Right, so upstairs in the bedrooms you can see we've got a couple more snake plants. We've got a cactus that's doing rather well. Actually had fallen apart and got it replanted, and cats knocked it over. And you can see it's got a lot of new growth happening on there, and another snake plant. So these snake plants were actually propagated from the ones that I showed you already downstairs in that bigger pot. And you can see they're just thriving in this southwest window and doing very well. But you can see these are watered at the exact same time as the other one, the larger ones, but this is very much dried out. Keep in mind, now I'm on the second floor. There's a heat vent directly down there. There's a lot more dry air up against this window. So these ones definitely need to be watered about once a week. That soil is dried out. The cactus, on the other hand, I'd go about once every 2 weeks, because remember, it's a cactus. I can't really get my finger in here without getting stabbed to see the soil, so I kind of have to go by eyesight with that one and err on the side of caution. It's a cactus. You don't need to water it quite as much. But I do water it in these containers. Most people would say have a drain plug on them. They do have drain plugs on them. I don't use it. I just water it thoroughly. and make sure usually I water it enough so there's sitting water on top, and then I let it soak into the soil, and that's it. And I put it back, wipe it down, put it back in place. And then again, I'm on the second floor in my bedroom. This again is very dried out. There's a heat vent underneath there. This one is on a nightstand, so it does not get that same sunlight. It's slower growing, but it's another great plant that doesn't need a ton of sunlight in order to continue to grow. It's a slow grower in that regard. And then I keep another one here again, and you can see just how dried out the soil gets. I could get away with watering this twice in a week, but I only need to do it once a week. And this wall is cold because it's an external wall, and this one's a little bit more damp than that one over there. That's by a heat register. But so that snake plant, again, you can see it's healthy, it's doing very well, it's still growing, and you can tell just from the angle of this corner, the window's way up there, it doesn't get a ton of sunlight. This is an east window, so, and it still does very well. Lastly, I brought in this particular plant here, is one that is just considered a house plant. You can get it at Walmart. I actually don't know the technical name of it, I apologize. I actually planted it out by the pond this season. You might have seen some of the videos on that. So I had it outside all summer long, and it did really well there. And then I brought it in, put it in a larger pot there. I did have some lavender around it. The cats got to the lavender and killed it. But this one's doing very well. Again, watering it about once a week. Checking the soil. This is very dry right now because this does have drain holes on it. So I have to be careful not to overwater it, otherwise I flood my wood floors. So, but just want to give you guys an update on that. There you have it, guys. Just wanted to give you just a couple of quick tours of some of the houseplants and things that I'm doing during the winter. Trying to keep some things alive, and how often I water, because my watering routine is a lot different, obviously, than it is during the summer with these plants outside. And the heat and the different areas or zones of your house make a big difference on how you're watering. So it's important to test the soil, check how often it is, and if it feels very damp, it's not worth watering because you could kill it. But it's also important to understand the species of plant that you're dealing with. Mint requires a lot more water. Pothos requires a lot more water than a snake plant or a succulent that requires very sparse water. Overwatering it can easily kill it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and like this video, give it a good thumbs up. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, share it out if you have some other people struggling with their houseplants. Maybe some tips could help them. As always, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay safe and enjoy your gardens.